We will call the December 18th Planning Commission meeting to order. We have a quorum present fairly. Ms. Jaco, did we have anybody sign up to make public comments? Okay. Everyone had an opportunity to look at the minutes. Any changes or corrections to the minutes?
If there are none, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Saberwater.
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
And he's not here.
He's on his way.
Is he? Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any items that the commission or the commission wants to talk about? If none, is there a motion to
So moved.
accept the consent agenda? We have a motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Saberwater.
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
All right, the next item on our agenda is the GDO on motion. The first item is Clary Park, Lot 18 townhomes, final design review and site plan review for 80 townhomes on 8.06 acres zone PUD and GDO 1 located along Robbie Corlew Lane and Robert Rose Drive. Hines Clary Park Land Holdings LLC is the developer. Mr. Barbie.
Good afternoon, Chairman Halliburton and members of the Murfreesboro Planning Commission. We have three items on our GDO agenda today. The first one is Clary Park Lot 18 townhomes. This is the final design review and site plan review for the 80 townhomes on 8.06 acres. You've previously reviewed the architecture and site on this particular property at a previous meeting. This is the final review of the same thing that you've seen before. At the last meeting, the architecture had been revised, and I believe Planning Commission was satisfied with those revisions. As you can see, this property does have access along Robbie Corlew Lane here, and the connection to Robert Rose Drive here at the rear. We do finally have screen access to where we can show these items now. I'm sorry, I'm a little tickled here. So as you can see, those areas do provide access. You do have a formal open space area that's been provided over in this area adjacent to the pond where it's convenient for the residents that will live there. Staff generally finds this plan in good order and requests that any approval will be subject to staff comments.
Thank you, Ms. Barbie. Anybody on the commission have any questions for Mr. Barbie? If no questions, any comments, motions associated with this application?
Move for approval. Subject to all staff comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Saberwater.
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
That motion passes. The next item on the agenda is Hawaiian Brothers Final Design Review and Site Plan Review for a 2,734 square foot restaurant on 1.77 acres located along Medical Center Parkway and Willow Oak Trail. Sequoia Hospitality LLC is the developer. Mr. Barbie.
Good evening or good afternoon again. As you stated, this is the final design review for Hawaiian Bros and site plan review. At the previous meeting, architecture was the main focus, and Planning Commission provided guidance that they wanted to see a reduction in the bold, vibrant color that was on a couple of the facades. As you can see on your screen now, they have reduced that color section to mainly trim areas that are on a canopy over doorways and entrance areas. You can see we've got some really good 3D images here to kind of give you a better idea of what that product will look like in the end. Focus today is more on the site plan review. and the design team has worked with us quite a bit on getting this refined. We did have a couple questions last time about how the circulation would work for the drive-through lanes. As you can see on the screen here, it does have access from both Medical Center Parkway here and Robbie Corlew Lane here. Cars will enter mainly for the drive-through, we feel like from the Robbie Corlew Lane, where they will enter this area and circulate the site. And that's going to be basically, or most of the time will be your customers that are coming there to order food and pick up. This entrance at the front is really oriented more for your online ordering in order to queue and bring those type of pickup services such as Uber Eats to where they can come in, pick up those orders and continue onward to deliver those. Ordering areas are, again, here at the rear in this area, adjacent to Robbie Corlew. It is, with a three-sided lot, there's not really a rear to the lot. It is the furthest away from Medical Center Parkway, while it is on Robbie Corlew. Staff feels that the site plan is generally in good order, as well as the building architecture. We would request that any approval be made subject to staff comments.
So I know we talked a little bit about this last time, but I guess there's, people just figure out that Uber Eats or whoever goes to one area, and if I'm just a regular pickup customer, I go to another area. I mean, is
That's
that
a
the way
good
it works?
question. I would assume that there's something that tells them where to go, but we do have some representatives from Hawaiian Bros.
If you could come to the podium, you will introduce yourself.
Yeah, Alex Mull, Excel Engineering, designed these civil plans. So thank you for having us here today. And to answer your question regarding the site circulation, if you go to the site plan, there are signs there preliminary shown where they're going to be for entrance only, exit only, and then mobile order pickup, and then drive-through to help them navigate the site, as well as site paint markings as well.
So the mobile ordering also would apply to me if I did a mobile order myself? Okay.
Correct. It's not exclusive to Uber Eats
Yeah,
or
yeah.
just order pickup like
Okay.
that.
That's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for him? All right. Anybody have questions for Mr. Barbie?
None for me. It's an improvement for me, so.
Yeah.
If there are
Second
none, move
motion.
for approval, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Abelwater.
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton.
Aye.
Mr. Harris. Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
That motion passes. Appreciate the applicant working with staff on the highlights, as we called them. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is Fairfield by Marriott, initial design review for 65,000 square foot building, 4-story hotel on 2.69 acres zoned mixed use in GDO 1, located along Robert Rose Drive. Pradeep Agatoria is the...
Agnihotri.
Agnihotri?
What you said.
Yes, thank you. Is the developer, and I apologize.
Good afternoon again. As you stated, this is the initial design review for a 65,000 square foot 4-story hotel inside our Gateway District. This initial design review is mainly focused towards the architecture with some discussion or review of the site plan included. As stated before, it is located at the corner of Robert Rose Drive and Lothric Way. This is one large parcel right now currently. They are potentially going to subdivide it and have a future development area. If that area becomes a second lot or becomes an extension of this development, will be something that they'll be reviewing with their future plans. Currently, they're providing the required streetscape improvements, sidewalks, street trees, street lighting along Robert Rose Drive, standard landscape design, and connectivity to the future development area property. Architecturally, they were providing the required base body and cap, doing almost all cementitious materials with some accent materials that we've got over here as well. Do have a material sample board I'd like to pass around.
It's rolling along the way.
Did want to point out that the front, this side, the design along the west elevation has been designed to appear more of a frontage as it will be facing Robert Rose Drive. They've added a matching canopy type design over the entrance on that door that mimics what's coming into the main door on what would be the front elevation north, using the same materials, masonry columns over both of those covered areas in the porte cochere. Is someone from the architects? Oh, right there in front of me. Have a representative from Michael Hyman Designs here today, and I'll let you speak more to the architecture.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm with A.J. Michael Hyman Architects. My name is Lydia, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have about this project. This is going to be Fairfield Inn & Suites by Marriott. As in always, we start with a prototype design by the brand, and then we work our way trying to adjust it and modify it with regards to the local design guidelines and zoning ordinance. This way we have more masonry here than the prototype design have. We have cast stone base, expanding into brick, light cream white brick, with some design, accent designs like the one here, which would be solid phenolic panels that resemble wood look.
The front elevation would be on, where's that facing on the
It
site
is
plan?
facing the, it's closer to Lothric Way.
Okay, that's what
And then this one, like Mr. Bradby said, that will be the one that's, what we consider as a false front, but it's actually the one facing Robert Rose Drive.
Any questions for the architect? Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Any questions for Mr. Barbie? There are none.
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Savelwater.
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton.
Aye.
Mr. Harris. Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
That motion passes. Next item on our agenda are plats and plans. On motion, we have a Kroger site plan for 122,910 square feet grocery store and a fueling station on 16.4 acres, zone commercial highway and commercial fringe, located along Memorial Boulevard. Kroger Limited Partnership. One is the developer.
Good afternoon again. As you stated, this is a site plan review for a 122,910 square foot grocery store and fueling center located along Memorial Boulevard, just to the west of the State Farm property. This site is going to provide grocery services, fueling services, as well as the grocery pickup area, which is going to be located kind of to your southwest corner of the building. One of the questions that I've been asked before is how far is this away from the residential neighborhood behind? I tried to take some measurements, and from what I've been able to scale off, it's roughly 250 feet from the loading or unloading area here until the property line at the neighboring subdivision. It does have a future retail area here, which will have to come back before Planning Commission for review before they'll be able to obtain permits. And the site also provides connectivity to the proposed Wawa station or Wawa store here in 2 locations, and as well as 2 connection points to the north to any future development that should come at that point.
Hy-Vee.
How's that, Hy-Vee?
Yep.
Did I say Wawa? Okay, Hy-Vee. Also included with this development is going to be a signalized section that will cross Memorial Boulevard and tie into State Farm, along with the improvements that will go with it. Architecturally, They're following our standard base body and cap design requirement. They do have some cast stone that they provided at the entranceway to kind of help draw attention to the entrance areas. But you can see they've carried the same type of features on all four sides of the building. They do have a backup generator that's included with their design. It's located on the western facade of the building, and it is enclosed inside a masonry enclosure to help with aesthetics and sound dissipation. Staff has found that generally the site is in good order. We would like staff and the design team to continue working together to get a formal open space design that's more cohesive with the property for the Kroger development. And at that point, we'll be able to either, if you'd like us to bring it back to you, or we could continue working with staff until we get that hashed out. So staff finds it generally in good order with that one item still needing some work, and would request that Planning Commission make any approval subject to staff comments.
This has nothing to do with the site plan, but just a curiosity question, what, do they have plans for the Kroger store that's less than a half a mile away?
You beat me to it. I was going to ask that same thing.
It's my understanding, is there a representative from Kroger's, Randy, here? Yes. I'll let Kroger address
Okay.
that.
Hello, I'm with Kroger. I'm Amber Long. I'm the construction manager. The current store, we will plan to sell that location once we move into this larger store just down the street.
Okay.
Why can't I picture the Kroger?
In the Iron Gate Kroger, across from Schwarzkopf.
Oh, yeah, it's tucked back there. Yeah, that's,
I'm fine with the plan. Move for approval subject to all staff comments.
Only thing I'd like to ask you a question is, do you want them to come back to us on this canopy, or you want them just to work it out?
Just work, they can work it out.
Okay.
just the color, right, of the canopy? What specifically on the canopy again are we discussing?
Mr. Barbie, you've mentioned that y'all were going to continue to work on the canopy.
We're going to work on the formal open space design. They've identified an area at the front of the building to provide open space, or formal open space. We just haven't been able to work through all of the details of what that's going to consist
Okay, I
of
thought
and
you
the
were talking about the
materials.
canopy. I apologize.
No problem.
We have a motion to approve as submitted, subject to staff comments.
Second.
Any other? Well, you got a motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Savelwater?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Mr. Harris? Aye. Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Thank y'all. All right, next item on our agenda is new business. The first item under new business is a zoning application to amend the PRD, the Greystone PRD zoning on approximately 205.21 acres located along Beals Road and Double Springs Road. Meritage Homes is the applicant. Mr. Donovan.
Thank you, Chair Halliburton. The application before you this afternoon is a request by Meritage Homes to amend the Greystone PRD, which is located on the north side of Vills Road and the west side of Double Springs Road. The property encompasses approximately 205 acres, which is currently under development. An amended master plan was approved in May of 2023 with preliminary plats for sections 1, 2, 3, and 4 receiving approvals between March 2021 and July of 2024. And during that time as well, HPR, single-family detached structures as well as townhomes were approved in site development plans during that same time frame as well. So as far as adjacent land uses, let me get to a map here. The adjacent land uses to the north is zoned RS6 and RS10. This is currently under development as Farmhouse Downs. To the east is residential medium density in unincorporated Rutherford County. And then to the south, you have a Carter's Retreat, PRD, and some more RM zoning that is in the county. And then to the west is Travelers Trace and Crestview, which are in the city and zoned RS10. So the existing PRD for Greystone includes approximately 375 single-family residential units broken down into 134 detached single-family that are on individual lots, 154 which are HPR-style single-family detached homes, and then 87 townhomes. The bulk of the PUD is going to remain in place. There's one amendment that affects landscaping and electric service within the PRD, which are the items that are being amended. The bulk of the PUD is staying the same. I've provided some highlights in there. I'm not going to go through those details since this body's seen it before, and those are all remaining intact. Moving forward, we'll concentrate on the elements that are going to change. As far as the future land use plan, this area is called out as auto urban residential, and with the bulk of the PUD, including the density remaining intact as it was previously approved. It complies with that portion of our future land use map. So Greystone, as far as what is changing, and let me get into a map that you can see as we discuss this. So the applicant is proposing to amend the PRD to remove the requirement for underground electricity along one section of street within here. It's the proposed collector that you see on the map in front of you that has the orange running along the side of it. That is known as Lyons Farm Parkway. The applicant is proposing in the amended PRD to change that from underground electric service to overhead electric service. Along with how that electric service is going to be provided, it would potentially affect what you're going to see in the way of landscaping. That was also called out in the past pattern book. We requested that the developer provide us with a letter stating why this was needed. The applicant indicated that the city standard utility practices integrate with the existing infrastructure, which includes recently installed overhead lines by MTE along the frontage of the subject property and the TVA transmission lines, which runs through the property. Extending overhead power lines along the collector road are also going to affect the neighboring Lyons Farm Parkway, or the neighboring development Farmhouse Downs. There's approximately 1 mile of Lyons Farm Parkway that's already built within that subdivision and has underground power within that as well. Lyons Farm Parkway is a community collector, which is in line with St. Andrews Drive, Cason Lane, and River Rock Boulevard, which I provided some screenshots in your report, just so you could see kind of what the context was of those streets. So we just wanted to highlight a couple of places within our existing regulations where this is a requirement for the Planning Commission's consideration. This is within our subdivision regulations, which it states that the city engineer or the Planning Commission has the authority to allow an exception to this, and the requirement for underground utilities is also within our design standards. The specific language is provided there in front of you. The developer did reach out to the city engineer to request under our overhead power. Ms. Emerson declined and referred the matter to Planning Commission for the body to weigh in on. So in addition to the overhead power, there will be some changes to the landscaping. I provided excerpts for you of what this would mean, of what's being provided. What this really does is limit the trees that would be able to be used. MTE's going to want to make sure that they protect those overhead power lines. So where we might have seen more trees that would have taller canopies, you're going to see that affected in landscaping along those corridors, or along the corridor that the overhead power is proposed. So there are some benefits to having underground power. It eliminates some visual clutter, which provided you those examples from other similar roadways in our city, and allows for more flexible development uses around it, as well as the overhead power is less exposed to weather events. So they are proposing, kind of in summary, they're proposing overhead power along the Lions Farm Parkway. The remainder of the subdivision will remain underground. So let's see. So this that is highlighted, that I drew the red line on, will become an overhead power. Everything else within the development will remain underground. This is really a decision that's at the discretion of the Planning Commission. There's some factors we feel that you need to take into consideration with your deliberation, and that's the cohesive of the development of Lions Farm Parkway throughout both subdivisions, Greystone and Farmhouse Downs, the impact of the overhead power on the landscaping options, the role of wetlands in shaping the development of Greystone, and the potential precedent that this could set for other similarly classified roads, as well as the context and character established by existing service within the area. Planning Commission will need to discuss the rezoning request and schedule a public hearing. Staff recommends the Planning Commission schedule the public hearing for January 8th.
So I know we need to schedule a public hearing, but since we have required underground utilities as part of the subdivision regulations, have we made an exception like this before?
Mr. Blomley, I'm not aware of any.
I'm not aware of any.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Puckett Station as well.
Matt, go ahead, sorry.
Thank you. Matt Taylor from SEC. And so a few things I would add, that the power along this stretch of road is different than what we see in all of our subdivisions. And it is I think the MTE calls it a connector or a conductor line. It's needed for power, extra power in the area. And so if you remember, whenever the city realigned Fortress and Manson Boulevard, over there they made a very conscious decision to put that power above overhead, whereas, and it's part of our gateway, whereas the rest of the medical center was underground. And it had to do with how much it was going to cost to put that underground. It was a different gauge wire, it's different standards. And that's the same size wire, the same standard that they're looking at here. And so it's, you know, when we got into the collector road and MTE let us know it's a huge number. And so that's why the ask. That's why the rest of the subdivision, we're saying leave as is. We want that to be underground. But if you look at Fortress Boulevard, if you also look at Osborne Lane, if we want to talk about collectors around, I can go around and name those around our city. And we have good examples of where we've got overhead power when we need the bigger lines. It does not detract. I also have talked to Chris Barnes, and the only change that we're going to make in the landscaping will be, we won't be able to have tall shade trees. We'll make those more ornamental ornamental trees. And so I don't think we're setting a precedence because most of our subdivisions don't have this big gauge wire. This is the first one I can remember where the developer is being asked to do this in the city. And so if it wasn't for that, we would have left it as underground, and that's why the commitment was in there to begin with. If MTE had let us know on the front side that this was going to need to be the bigger wire, we would have had this conversation 3 years ago. And so we wouldn't be back here.
So, I'm sorry, Matt, or Mr. Taylor, you said Fortress and what?
Fortress and Manson, whenever the city redid all that, you can see a clear distinction from whenever you are on Medical Center Parkway side and you cross over the interstate. It goes back overhead on that side of the interstate because of the type of wire. And the difference between here and Farmhouse is that Farmhouse Downs Road is almost entirely underneath the TVA lines, and they would not let them be overhead there. Here, our road is outside of that because of the wetlands, and so we're able to have some overhead there. And then MTE did just extend overhead power along the north side of Vills Road. On this side, we've got TVA overhead lines. The subdivision to the west of us is overhead, so it's not out of character in the area. We do want everything internal to the development to still be underground, though. It's just this heavier gauge wire that is the ask.
Mr. Halliburton, just to follow up on the question that you asked about other times when we've allowed this, Ms. Knoll did remind me that on Elam Farms Parkway, adjacent to the Manchester Farms Apartments off Manchester Pike, it was allowed there, as well as some other industrial type of applications.
Okay. Thank you. I know Matt sat down, Mr. Taylor sat down, but did any of y'all have any questions for Mr. Taylor? All right. Any questions for Mr. Donovan or other discussion? If not, we need a motion to set a public hearing on the 8th.
Move to set the public hearing on January the 8th.
Second. Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Ava Water,
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Prince,
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
All right, the next item on the new business agenda is a zoning application for approximately 4 acres located along North Rutherford Boulevard and Old Las Casas Road to be rezoned from CF to PCD. HEMG LLC is the applicant. And before you start, this application is next to my neighborhood, and so I will be abstaining from any discussion or vote on this application. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair and Commission. As you can see on the above overhead, the location of the site is currently one full site, but the PCD that they are proposing is only along the portion that's along Old Las Casas Road. Previously, you all have approved an Aldi's at this location that actually ties out to Old Las Casas, and then we're anticipating a gas station convenience center here at this corner within the current CF zoning district. As you can see on the top map, you can see those 2 shaded out areas that are not part of this planned development, and there would be 4 potential business locations along this property that are involved in the project. As you can see here, the CF zoning is what's in place, and our future general plan land use map is showing all general commercial uses. The current CF zone district does not allow for auto-oriented uses, which they are proposing a Valvoline at the corner here at Rutherford and Old Las Casas Road. So staff looked at a PCD being filed so that it can more appropriately have enhanced architecture as well as landscaping for that particular type of use. As you're looking at the project site, They did provide a conceptual layout for the other 3 properties, so that when they did a master plan that you all approved, really for the purposes of circulation and how things would function, they did their traffic analysis based on that, which was considered a conservative traffic analysis for how the flow of traffic would work. But basically, the site would still maintain this cross-connectivity here over the existing kind of water feature with water quality protection on both sides. Some of that's off the property in question, and some of it's within it. And then they would also maintain this cross-connectivity that comes between the sites parallel to Old Las Casas Road. And looking at these layouts, they meet basically our city standards. And then when they look at the Valvoline building itself, really we're looking at a all-brick building with very little EIFS or ancillary materials, metal, or any of those things, so that it's a higher quality, given its high-profile location. And then when we're looking at the landscaping, here you can see we're actually looking at a berm-type landscaping along that streetscape. This particular street is a little bit more rural than some of the others, and we do anticipate, and I believe we've mentioned to you before, that they probably are anticipating the city putting a median through this intersection to where basically left turns through that intersection would no longer be able to be taken because of this spillback that happens on your southbound turn lane. So based on the project, they're really not asking for exceptions other than requesting that a automotive/motor vehicle service use be allowed on the southwest corner of North Rutherford and Old Las Casas. Prohibited uses are our standard ones there, but we also include gas station and convenience store because we know those are already going to be located and are allowed uses in the other side of the property. And then, of course, because they don't know what's going to be in those other buildings outside the Valvoline, we've asked them to define what kind of uses, and these are mostly from our CF use table, which is what the current zone district is today. So with that, staff is asking that we set a public hearing for this on January 8th to consider a recommendation to be made to the council at this time.
And I need to make a correction. I thought this was Dr. Cunningham's property, so I will be participating in this application.
Unabstained.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. All right, sorry about that. Any questions for Ms. Smith? All right, we have any other items you want to discuss or a motion to set a public hearing? Not everybody speak at once.
I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing for, what's the date?
January 8th,
January 8th.
2025.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Savelwater?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Mr. Harris? Aye. Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
That motion passes. Next, or that application passes. The next item is a zoning application to amend the PCD zoning East Side Village PCD on approximately 1.94 acres located along North Rutherford Boulevard. CSC Properties LLC is the applicant. Ms. Smith.
As you can see on the overhead aerial, this particular location is located just north of Louise Street and is actually just south of Alumni Drive, in close proximity to the campus, and it's wedged between North Rutherford and Yearwood Avenue. When we're looking at our future land use map for this area shown in yellow, it is a neighborhood commercial use, and really the ones that are located in back of it in the green are outside identified are in our future study area, and those are all single-family residential zoning in the county. And then actually to the south of the property and to the north of the property as well are additional residential uses in the county. You can better see them here where my hand is motioning, but there's also RS-15 in the city, and then directly across the street we have planned commercial development with gas station and tenant improvement stores. This particular PCD was approved in 2020, and it originally had one building just in the center of the location with one drive-through. The current applicant is actually looking at maintaining that same central access, which currently does not have a left turn lane, so they would be required to install that left turn lane into the site. And then the prior development also allowed for potential future connection back to Yearwood Avenue, but at this time the county does not want to accept any connectivity back to Yearwood Avenue, but thinking 20-year horizons, we want to make sure we at least maintain that possibility in the long range. Additionally, there's an access easement that is along the frontage that goes north-south for the property, and that will allow for those future neighborhood commercial uses that were anticipated. This particular project was originally thought that they would add one more property to the north, so when they took their sewer variance to the council, they actually got approval for sewer variance for all 3 properties, and then as they moved forward, they pulled back to just the original site because some of that other property to the north would have also involved annexations. So here, what they've prepared, so we would scale back the amount of sewer allocation that they would have to this particular site. And then I did clarify, slightly different from what's in the staff report, is along this back portion, there is proposed a type D buffer with just an opaque fence that would be 6 feet. And we did confirm back in the prior approval, that's what it had, was a 6-foot opaque fence. And then what they're proposing to the north and south are just type D regular buffers with no fencing. Going back to, again, that original, it had a chain link fence between the 2 rows of trees, and so the applicant stated that they would be fine with putting those particular uses in, which would stay in place until future commercial development went in place. And then lastly, on this of special note, for the uses is that they do show that menu boards only, no ordering speaker proposed for either of the uses. So they're looking at a Chipotle on this property here to the south, and then a Dutch Brothers to the north. And so that's one of the things that a lot of times in CF zones, we usually are very cognizant of where those speaker boxes are. But in this particular use, they show in the plan development book, no speakers would be incorporated. However, they do still have locations for 2 menu boards. But the applicant is here if there are any questions about those specifics. But otherwise, we would look at setting this as a public hearing for our January 8th meeting. And if there's any questions, the applicant's engineer is available.
Again, this is not a site plan. Just curiosity question, so are these people have an app on their phone and they're ordering that? Holy cow.
Matt Taylor of SEC. Yes, sir. So we just did a Chipotle just opened on the south side of town that's similar to this.
Yeah, Sean.
And it's all mobile app. I believe I think it's Building B is a coffee type facility, and I think there you can actually order at the window or on your phone.
Interesting.
Never personally been through either of those, but I know Jamie Reed's daughter likes the coffee place, and
What's
it's
the
all
coffee
about the
place?
phone.
Dutch Brothers.
Oh, it is a Dutch Brothers? Motion to approve, set the public hearing.
I should have said that quicker then.
So we're setting a public hearing.
Yes, set the public hearing. Hurry it up.
So we have a motion to set a public hearing.
Second.
They have a second. Any other questions before we? All right. Ms. Jaco.
Ms. Savelwater,
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton.
Aye.
Mr. Harris. Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
All right, our next item on the agenda is a zoning application for approximately 3.88 acres located along South Bilbro Avenue and East Castle Street to be rezoned from RS8 and CCO to PND. The First Baptist Church, Murfreesboro, PND, and CCO, First Baptist Church, Murfreesboro, is the applicant. Ms. Smith.
Good afternoon again. As you can see on the aerial above, the area in question includes the existing church site, their existing parking lot that's across the street, and then several single-family residential properties that are all now currently owned by the church, as well as one legal non-conforming barber shop business. When we're looking at this particular layout, our long-range future land use map shows most of these properties all as mixed-form housing, and the legal non-conforming barber shop as neighborhood commercial, because we didn't know, when those uses would change out. And then the church is as a public institution. Because currently, our zoning code does not allow any standalone parking lots. We had suggested that a PND, which is Planned Institutional District, be filed for the property, and just so that you know, north is actually to the left. So because it wouldn't fit on the page rotated in the opposite direction. But what they are planning on doing within the zone districts, the properties currently are all zoned RS8 with a city core overlay district from the zoning perspective. And then when you look at the properties itself, what they're wanting to do is create a sidewalk that actually goes along the interior of that parking lot site, and then back out to East Castle and back up South Bilbro, so it can actually be a kind of an amenity for those in and around the neighborhood. And then you'll see a Lot B. Lot A also does incorporate lighting that would be specific to our lighting ordinance and could not exceed 20 feet. This particular drawing page does still need to have some amendments done to it, but of special note, a RS8 to a planned development requires a type B buffer, which would normally be a double row of trees, or it could be a 50% row of trees and a 6-foot fence. So originally the property, they proposed to have 6-foot fences along the property lines adjacent to residential, but staff, looking at that with our CPTED policies and crime prevention, wanted to make sure we didn't create a dead zone in some of these areas, and so we actually suggested that a 4-foot fence be along this particular portion of the site, as well as this portion of the site, so that you have better visibility into those corner areas. And then this site being so small, also not wanting to create a 6-foot fence, no man's land that nobody can see in, also suggested a 4-foot fence. So we do see that this would be modified slightly, with the intent being that that B landscaping is 10 feet altogether. That would include really this grass strip, fence and the tree area, and really be bisected by that portion. And really the lower shrubbery is to serve what we have some of those planting requirements, but the fence will also help screen those headlights from going into the neighboring properties. So this is really the biggest focus that we believe will be a great amenity to the community while providing the additional parking that's necessary for the church. So when they are looking at the exceptions, when staff looked at the current, what's in our book, they're really looking at the 4 exceptions that are shown there on the bottom of the page in red, that they allow these parking lots to be standalone uses but tied to the church development, that the formal open space requirement be excluded from the development. All of the approvals that have been on this site previously have all gone to BZA, and there's quite a few of them. So staff has not been able to go through all the multiple ones over the years, but our hope will be that really the PND will serve as their entire approval document for the entire campus. And then, of course, requesting exceptions to that type B buffer, and that's really to allow for those shorter fences in those areas with 50% of the landscaping, because we would have trees on one side, fence, and then the shrubbery instead of trees, and a fence. So those changes we would bring to you before the Planning Commission has their public hearing, and we are recommending that the January 8th be the public hearing meeting, and there was a neighborhood meeting on this particular project who Mr. Blomley attended, and there were a couple of items that they brought up that we're still taking a look at. Some of it was existing lighting on their existing campus, which we just want to be a problem solver there. And then the other one was hoping to extend those sidewalks a little bit further. So we have reached out to our Public Works Department to see about, at some point, having some of those extensions, so again, it better serves the community. So with that, the applicant's engineer is present in case there's any questions before setting the public hearing for January 8th.
And thanks to Chris Griffith and Michelle Emerson, there were some, as Ms. Smith mentioned, some concerns about like leaving some gaps in sidewalks, specifically to the north along South Bilbro, in between the church parking lot and State Street, as well as in that little, the one private property on the north side of East Castle that would not be part of the church parking lot. And Chris and Michelle said that if Mr. Taylor will design it, then they'll put it on their list to construct those, to fill in those gaps on their list of sidewalk projects, and Mr. Taylor has agreed to design those in conjunction with the design of the sidewalks that the church will be installing.
Thank you, Matthew. Any questions from the board for Ms. Smith or the applicant? If not, we're ready to set a public hearing.
Move to set the public hearing for January the 8th.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
All right,
Thank you,
our next-
Commission.
Thank y'all. Next item on our agenda is annexation petition or request for outside the city sewer service for approximately 170.4 acres located along Manchester Pike. Hamilton Development and John Worley are the applicants. Ms. Lewis.
Good afternoon. This item is for an annexation petition or request for outside the city sewer service. The subject property is located along the northeast side of Manchester Pike at 8808 Manchester Pike, which is just east of I-24, and it's located in the unincorporated portion of Rutherford County. The applicants, Hamilton Development and John F. Worley Jr., have filed a petition for annexation or alternatively for approval of outside the city sewer customer. Hamilton Development's desire is for the subject parcel to be approved as an outside the city sewer customer rather than it being annexed. Hamilton Development is making this request in conjunction with Project Spring, which is a proposed light industrial development for this site. Because the existing property at 8808 Manchester Pike is about 2.27 miles outside the city limits and the urban growth boundary, staff is recommending the property be served as outside the city sewer customer. And if the Planning Commission and City Council approve this property as outside the city sewer customer, it must be assigned a city equivalent zoning classification, which staff recommends be light industrial. If approved, then the developer will be required to sign an agreement with the city under the current ordinance. If the request is approved, any proposed development and construction on the property must comply with certain development standards and regulations. However, staff does expect an ordinance amendment to be forthcoming that in some circumstances may modify those requirements for outside the city sewer service. Today, the Planning Commission will need to either schedule a public hearing to consider annexation of this property or recommend approval for this property to the city council as an outside the city sewer customer.
A curiosity question, what is it zoned currently in the county?
We can look that up real quick. I guess real quick is relative, but okay. Let's see.
So I guess my question is if we vote and agree to it, and it's a different zoning than what's currently in the county, is the county obligated to change the zoning?
No, no. So the county's authority, review authority, is as the jurisdiction that actually has zoning power and development review over the subject property. The city's authority over the review of development of the property would be via its development agreement with the applicant, with the property owner. And so the applicant would be required to follow whichever development requirements are more stringent. However, as Ms. Lewis said, we are currently formulating an ordinance amendment to bring to the city council, which would, in certain circumstances, perhaps reduce or eliminate the requirements to follow certain city zoning and development requirements, especially when the Planning Commission finds that there is, virtually no chance that it could ever be annexed into the city limits in the future.
Okay.
So I think what in talking with city administration, what our intention is to bring it to the Planning Commission today and have Planning Commission make a recommendation to City Council based on your review of whether or not it would be appropriate to annex or appropriate to serve as an outside the city sewer customer. And then we would wait to bring it to City Council until such time as our legal department had an ordinance amendment ready to present to council that would kind of be in tandem with this particular request.
Okay. You don't have to look it up.
Okay. I'm really close.
I'm pretty sure it's RM zoning.
That was a filibuster.
Yeah. Did you want to make a comment?
My name is Rob Artz. I'm with Kimley Horn, one of the engineers for Project Spring. I'm here with another member of the development team, just happy to help answer any questions.
Okay.
The existing use is RM, and we're working with the county to go through a PUD process to amend that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, any other questions for Ms. Lewis or the applicant? If there are none, are we ready to set public hearing?
If you choose to serve as an outside the city sewer customer or to make that recommendation to council, there's no requirement for a public hearing. It would just be a vote to make that recommendation.
I'm fine with being an outside city sewage customer. What, you're almost at 3 miles from closest cities?
About 2.5, yeah.
So that a motion?
Yeah, there's a motion.
Subject to all staff comments?
Absolutely.
All right.
Second that motion.
All right. We have a motion and second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Aplewater.
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item is staff reports and other business. The first item under that heading is mandatory referral for the abandonment of a portion of a drainage easement on property located at 316 Robert Rose Drive. Eli LLC, on behalf of the Murfreesboro Water Resources Department, is the applicant. Mr. Blomley.
I'll carry the water on this one, so to speak.
Oh, please. I think that's that Auburn education.
So there are a few cleanup items prior to Murfreesboro Water Resources moving into their new location at 316 Robert Rose Drive. One of those things is the abandonment of a portion of a drainage easement, and it is where their payment kiosk building has been constructed. And this was always anticipated to be abandoned. They have rerouted some of the stormwater infrastructure. They'll be dedicating additional easement, but they are needing this particular portion of the easement to be abandoned because, as I mentioned, there's a conflict with the building that was built over it, but intentionally built over it. So they are attempting to wrap this up and get a quitclaim deed recorded prior to recording the plat. I think they're hopeful to get the plat recorded this week if possible. So we've got this on tomorrow night's City Council agenda pending your recommendation of approval this afternoon. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of this request to the City Council subject to the following conditions. The legal instruments abandoning the easement will be subject to the final review and approval of the legal department. And number 2, the final plat for the re-subdivision of the subject property shall A, include the dedication of the additional drainage easement area, and B, shall be recorded simultaneously with the recording of the quitclaim deed abandoning the easement. Be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question, and it's really high level. If a private entity decided they were going to build a building on top of an easement that wasn't abandoned yet, what would happen?
Attaboy.
I don't know the answer to that question, Mr. Wright.
I think I need the answer to that question.
I don't think we'd be sitting here.
I don't think we'd be sitting here, so if we can do it, it opens up a can of worms. Lawyers?
Well, I believe it would be fact-specific. If the building had been there for some time and we hadn't discovered it, then there
But this was presented as we knew about it.
Well, it was a part of the approved plans for the property. So it's at this point, it's merely an exercise in paperwork abandoning the easement because the approved plans show the rerouting of that drainage infrastructure.
So would we make that same argument if Mr. Huddleston or Matt Taylor or anybody was out here doing the exact same thing? Would we make this same argument?
I believe we would, under that hypothetical, if we approved plans that contemplated the abandonment of the easement, and this was just kind of tying up that process. I believe that we would allow them to move forward because we approved the plans that contemplated this.
So we would go ahead and let them build a building on top of an easement that's not abandoned yet?
I mean, I think we would encourage them to seek the abandonment first before they built the building, but if they didn't do that, it's not like we're going to make them tear down the building, particularly if we approved the plans that contemplated the abandonment.
Yeah, but
Right. I certainly hear what you're saying, yeah.
I mean, if we're going to hold the private to something, we got to do the same thing if the government's going to do it. So, with that being said, I move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Overwater.
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton.
Aye.
Mr. Harris. Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
All right, that mandatory referral is approved. The next item on our agenda is another mandatory referral for the city's acquisition of property located at 910 Ridgely Road. City of Murfreesboro is the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Halliburton. This comes to us from the Administration Department. The city is looking to put the property under contract at the corner of Ridgely Road and Scott Street. It is the property colored in blue on the map in front of you. It has been in an industrial use in the past, and it's currently broken up into multiple tenant spaces, I think for a variety of uses from group assembly to industrial and commercial uses. The city has, the city schools has identified it as a potential option for its transportation department and several other functions of city schools that have outgrown its existing facilities on New Salem Highway. And so the city would like to put the property under contract so that city schools could move its transportation department to this property at some point in the future. We would request that you make a recommendation of approval on this matter to City Council. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any question from Mr. Blomley? If not, do we have a motion, one way or the other?
Motion to approve.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Ava-Water.
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton.
Aye.
Mr. Harris. Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Any other business?
A couple things. First of all, it's our last meeting of the year, and so just a couple of items of housekeeping. As you are well aware, having just scheduled 4 public hearings for the night of January the 8th, because of the New Year's holiday, our evening meeting in January will actually be the second Wednesday of the month as opposed to the first Wednesday. So January the 8th.
8th.
Yes, ma'am, at 6 p.m.
What about the day meeting?
Day meeting will remain the same, January the 15th at 1 p.m.
I will not be here for that.
I'm not sure I'll be here that day.
Okay, sounds good.
And then the other thing is of course, we have to make sure we get our continuing education in by December the 31st. I know all of you are well on your way to that, and we appreciate you working with us to get that continuing education. If you have any questions, reach out to me by email or phone. If you need any links for anything, let me know. Be happy to help you out so we can make sure that we stay in the state's good graces after the end of the year. Other than that, hope everybody has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. We are adjourned.